Welcome. Family and friends. Oh, that can be such a wonderful source for joy, energy, and you just want to spend a lot of time with them. Unfortunately, it can also be a source of feeling obligated, feeling guilty, of drain, and I should be doing this or that. So this video, I'm going to help you find the energy that you can get from family and friends. I'm going to do that by sharing the recommendations from my Timefinder community. So in my Timefinder community, we concluded that family and friends, to get the joy out of that, we also need boundaries. So these are the 4 areas we spoke about. To get the most out of this wonderful thing, family and friends, we want to give ourselves the time and care we need without feeling guilty or selfish. We want to create a rhythm and allocate time for you and your family and friends. We want to make sure that we are hyper present when we are with friends and family. And we need to create a lifestyle that helps us weather the inevitable storms. So let's have a look at each of these areas. So to start with, give yourself the time and care you need without feeling guilty or selfish. So that's easily said than done. I think you've all heard this. Fill up your own cup. You can't help anyone unless you take care of yourself first. We know it. And still, I meet so many people who feel guilty when they give themselves me time, who feel guilty when they say no to someone's request. But if we go beyond the feeling guilty and fully realize, we can only be loving and helpful when we have taken care of ourselves. Because if you give more time and energy than you have, you might end up exhausted and resentful, acting in a way you feel bad about afterwards. I've heard people come to me and say that, like, I don't want to say that to my partner, to my child. I don't want to feel like a nag. I don't want to behave this way. And usually when we behave in ways we don't like, that's because we have given more than we had. So remember that. Remember that there is a good reason for taking care of yourself. It's not just to be nice or there's a good thing. It's you'd really need it to be the kind of person you want to be. This means you need to know your boundaries and figuring out when a request comes, how much of my time is this worth for me? Is it giving or draining my energy? And be aware that there are things that can give you energy, and the same thing can drain your energy if it becomes too much. Let's say you have a sister with children and she'd like you to take care of her children, and you realize, I'd love to do that once a week or so. I don't want to take care of them a full week because then I will become this resentful, exhausted person. So figure out what any given activity or request means for you. Do I want to do this? To what extent do I want to do that? And once you know your boundaries, then it's important to honor them. And it's not easy, but practice makes perfect. So some other areas where people might request more of us than we want to give can be that maybe you are the person someone else goes to vent, to get things off their chest. And maybe you're fine with that a little, but not too much. So if someone regularly ventilates and dump their complaints and drama on you, figure out, okay, again, how much of this do I want to take? How much of this can I take? Can I take it once a week and half a lunch? But the other half, I want to talk about something else. Or can I just not deal with it at all? Because as soon as she comes and dumps on me, it feels like she's a chaos magnet and it just doesn't stop. And I don't want to be part of this. Figure out what you want or how much you can deal with, and then talk to your friends. So in my Timefinder community, there were a couple of people who said they had done this with good results without making the other person angry. So you can describe your experience and how it impacts you. When you talk about all the things that have gone wrong for a whole lunch, I miss that we didn't get to talk about anything uplifting, anything fun. We didn't get to talk about me. So it makes me feel a bit drained. If we say that, they must say, oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't aware. Could very well be that they're not aware. Could be that they're so caught up with their own thinking. So find a way to say it that works. If that soft way of saying things don't work, then you might need to increase the straight talk. Are you aware that you're complaining a lot? It's not, it's making these conversations less interesting than they could be. As one of my Timefinder community members said, sometimes we have repeat offenders. They just do it and do it and do it out of habit. They're not aware. They need to increase the straight talk. So find a way to inform your friend that this drains me. I want to be with you. I like you. I want to be there for you. But this way does not work. If you already give as much as you want to give, say that you are taking care of your elderly parents once a week, or you go by there and have dinner with them. Maybe you have another sibling who goes there twice a week and says like, hey, you should come more. That's not up to anyone else to say. So if you are giving as much as you want to give, refuse feeling guilty for not giving any more, even more. We can always give more. There's always more. There's always more to do. There's always more to give. You need to find what you can and want to give, and don't let anyone else put blame on you. When you are telling, say, that sibling, actually, going there once a week and having dinner feels great, and that's what I'm going to do right now, then you can be proud of yourself when you overcome your old patterns of guilt and people pleasing. Another way of saying this is remember that you are a role model for people around you, and you can be a role model for taking care of yourself and others. And this is especially important if you have children. We all know the saying, children don't do what we say, they do what we do. So if you learn to take care of yourself, you are automatically teaching people around you, including your kids, to do the same. So that was the part about give yourself the time and care you need without feeling guilty or selfish. The second part, create a rhythm and allocate time for you and your family and friends. So rather than just thinking, I'll take care of it when it comes or when I have the time, make sure that you do this a bit more structured. So do set aside time, not too much and not too little. To use a Swedish word, lagom. You would use the right amount of time for your friends and family and put that into the calendar. Find a rhythm that works for you. That includes frequency. How often am I going to meet these friends? How often am I going to meet these relatives? How am I going to meet them? Am I living in another country? Then, of course, online meetings can be great. Do I want to meet while we're having an activity? Do I want to go with my friends to train? Or do I want to go and sit and talk with them? Or do I want to go to a cinema? Find it out. Look into this in a bit more the way we do at work. What works, instead of thinking I'll take it as it comes and end up in a way where you don't want to be. And remember that when you create time for meeting your friends, you can also set aside time for dates with yourself. And that can be like once a week, I'm going to have a date with myself, and I'm not going to decide until that moment what I'm going to do, leaving it open for spontaneity and for adapting to whatever you're going to feel like in the morning. So that was the second part, create a rhythm and allocate time for you and your family and friends. Third, be hyper present when you are with friends and family, when you are with anyone. Be super present. Why? That's more efficient and more satisfying. So 15 minutes with presence and focus is more valuable than hours of being around while you focus on something else. This can be, I think we typically remember this when we meet friends, we do something we don't do that often. But at home with our children, because we see them all the time when we're not working or they're not in school, then we might be absent-minded and do things and feel like we've been around them, but that's not really what they need. They want you to be there fully. And that doesn't have to be so long. So 15 minutes a day per child was something I read when I had smaller children. And I really noticed that it helped. It was as if it was enough. When I was super focused on one, I have three, one child at a time for 15 minutes, they would feel that it was enough and suddenly walk away or do something else where they didn't feel the need for me anymore. So hyper-presence can make you efficient, as in you might not have to spend as much time as you think, as long as you make the time count. Another way of making the time count is make the most of what you have in common. This can be with friends or family. Say that you have great friends from the time when you were playing a lot of tennis, but you have injured your knee half a year ago, so you don't train so much, you walk nowadays. Being there while everyone else plays tennis might not be fun, but maybe you walk around and join them afterwards when they have they're done with their training. Maybe you go and do something together afterwards. Or if some people tend to only want to do something and you don't want to do that, then find what works for me. Make the most of what you have in common. Don't try to make people something they're not. Then maybe you need to find the deep conversations with other groups and the physical activities with one group. Figure out what group fits which one of my interests and make the most of that. So adjust the activity to the company. And then finally, create a lifestyle that helps you weather the inevitable storms. What we mean by that in the community is that there are times when there's going to be an endless need. This can be a friend with a terminal disease. This can be having a child with special needs, and these needs will always be there. They will not outgrow them. They will not be able to take care of themselves when they're grown-ups. They will need help from you and from society. Or it's that a friend or your parents are declining in health. You know, it's just going to get harder and harder for them to take care of themselves. For that, you can't just put aside some time in the calendar, or you can't just work a little bit more. This requires a bigger thing, creating that lifestyle. So in one way, of course, we're back to the first thing. Take care of yourself regularly. Have a life with margins. This we need also in the more common scenario when our children get sick, or maybe a friend or a colleague. We want to be able to drop everything so we can go and help out now and then. And the other example I talked about, when there is an endless need and it will be for a while, it's really important to build and cultivate a support network. We've heard about it takes a village to raise a kid. Well, it takes kind of a village to take care of people who are growing old or who are sick as well. But too often we think we need to do it all. Build and cultivate a support network. Be that family, be that friends, be that neighbors, be that societal structures that you might need. Be aware of what help can I get. And then you can support each other when there is a bigger need for help than any one person can sustainably give. And if you can't be physically present, so in my Timefinder community, many people live in another country than friends and family, and you can't be physically present, you can be someone's emotional support. You can still be there online, and you can help those who are there physically. So those were and are the recommendations from my Timefinder community for how to really get the joy there for family and friends. So to wrap up, give yourself the time and care you need without feeling guilty or selfish, because it isn't guilty or selfish. It is a more productive way. It is the only way you can be the person you want to be. Be smart to create a rhythm and allocate time for you and your family and friends. Is a very important activity. So of course it fits in your agenda, in your plan, in your calendar. Be hyper present when you are with friends and family. That way you can make the most of even less time than you think. And be aware that some things you can't fix on your own. Create a lifestyle that helps you weather the inevitable storms. I hope this was useful for you. Take care of you. Take care of your time.